Good evening and welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Olajide Bello. First, the headlines. UN Climate Change Conference COP29 ends with a new finance goal. As global health champions navigate hurdles to solve issues of immediate priorities in the sector. The Nigerian Army hinges operational and logistics requirements on efficient use of funds in line with global standards. Talking health, fresh concerns are tasking global health champions in navigating through the hurdles to solve issues of immediate priorities, and one of such is the conjoined twins, which is piloting the wheel for innovative solutions. And King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center is providing the platform. And away in Riyadh, correspondent Abubakar Kwanga reports that the 2024-2025 International Conference of Conjoined Twins is craving a new agenda for a promising future for patients.
The 2024 and 2025 Conjoined Twins Conference holding in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, is a global phenomenon seeking sincere answers to many questions left to only one man to solve, the Saudi monarch, King Salman bin Abdulaziz. Now ovations are high as number of patients for the single fertilized egg that splits and develops into two individuals, commonly known as conjoined twins, are becoming more alarming for one individual to address.
The King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center is not only, spreading its tentacles around the world, but it has its own stopover in Nigeria.
Nigeria is also a major beneficiary, as 3 different families have successfully undergone the experience with all their babies hale and hearty, a gesture that cut across 26 countries with 143 cases and 61 pairs, now leading top conversation by experts.
Hundreds of thousands of children dying every year because of congenital anomalies, and conjugated twins is one of these important congenital anomalies.
Is an incredible humanitarian initiative that not only would serve the areas around us, but somewhere around the world.
It's really a turning point, and we are really glad to be invited, and I'm very honored to be invited by King Salman Relief and its partners.
Panelists say with detection of the problem at early stage of pregnancy, safe abortion at instances of major health complications, and regular antenatal services, chances of mortalities and deformation can be brought to a controllable limit.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, through its Foreign Affairs Ministry, is pursuing a strong commitment with the United Nations for the declaration of 24th November of every year as World Conjoined Twins Day. This is to raise global awareness and to seek greater partnership in meeting international demands of stemming the health challenge, especially in developing countries. In Riyadh, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I am Abubakar Kwanga, NTA News.
Romanians vote in first round of the Eastern Europe country's presidential election amid a surge in inflation and fears over the war in neighboring Ukraine, while Uruguay holds runoff polls where the left hopes to unseat the incumbent president. Khalil Mohammed tells us more.
Social Democrat Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu is said to be leading a field of 13 hopefuls in the polls with about 25%, followed closely by far-right leader George Simeon on 15 to 19%. George Simeon said if elected president, he will stop Romania's military aid to neighboring Ukraine. He, however, did not give a reason for the intended decision. In the same vein, Uruguayans also cast votes to vote a new president for the second round vote of the general elections. The leftist alliance of celebrated former president Jose Pepe Mujica hopes to reclaim the country's top job 5 years after a right-wing victory driven by concerns over crimes and taxes. In undecided Uruguay, some people are set to hope for the continuation of the ruling party, with candidate Alvaro Delgado, while others look to candidate Yamando Orsi for a return of the left, which ruled for 15 years ahead of the run-off. The 89-year-old former president remains at the center of South American nation's politics as a key supporter of left-wing candidate hoping to unseat the incumbent. Kolo Muhammad, NTA News.
The EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, has called for an immediate ceasefire in Israel-Hezbollah war while on a visit to the Lebanese capital for talks. He said he sees only one possible way ahead, an immediate ceasefire and the full implementation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701. The tit-for-tat strikes appear to be pushing the Middle East closer towards all-out war, with top European Union figures increasingly weighing on the tension. Meanwhile, at the funeral of the 3 killed militants in Beirut, attended by hundreds of supporters, Hezbollah deputy leader Naim Qassem declared an open-ended battle was underway between the Islamic militant group and Israel. The UN Climate Change Conference COP29 has ended with a new finance goal to help countries to protect people and economies against climate disasters and share in the vast benefits of the clean energy. With a central focus on climate finance, COP29 brought together nearly 200 countries in Baku, Abuja, that reached a breakthrough agreement, including triple public finance to developing countries from the previous goal of USD 100 billion annually to $300 billion annually by 2035. Secure efforts of all actors to work together to scale up the finance to developing countries from public and private sources to the amount of $1.3 per year by 2035. And still on COP29, the world approved a negotiated climate deal Sunday, but poor nations, most at the mercy of worsening disasters, dismissed a $300 billion a year pledge from wealthy historic polluters as insultingly low. After 2 exhausting weeks of chaotic bargaining and sleepless nights, nearly 200 nations pushed through the contentious finance pact in the early hours in a sports stadium in Azerbaijan, but the applause had barely subsided when India delivered a full-throated rejection of the abysmally poor deal, kicking off a firestorm of criticism from across the developing world. The document, noted, is little more than an optical illusion. In their opinion, it will not address the enormity of the challenge the world all face. Some countries' representatives described the document lack of goodwill from rich countries to stand by the world's poorest as they confront rising seas and harsher droughts. And now to speak more on the agreement reached at the just concluded COP29 in Baku is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Change and Stakeholders Engagement, Ibrahim Abdullahi Sheleng. You're welcome to the news on NTA International.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, let's start with a new collective quantified climate finance has been pegged at $300 billion to countries hit hardest by impact of climate change. How realistic is this amount for developing countries to enable them address climate challenges?
Thank you for that question. I think it's widely lauded now that the majority of developing countries have essentially not been happy with this particular goal. If we go back to the previous goal of the $100 billion that was agreed, even that struggled, and I think there was almost a 2-year gap in terms of when it was supposed to be implemented and when it was actually implemented. Given the fact that developing nations are the most hit, by climate change and the adverse effects of climate change, the onus really is on the developed nations who essentially have been the major emitters to be able to support developing countries. Developing countries have inadequate infrastructure and also lack the fiscal buffers to be able to absorb climate change related incidents. We're talking about crippling economies and struggling GDPs. So it's vitally important that we see that support from the global north to the global south. It's simply not enough, and even the goals that were agreed does not necessarily state exactly how this funding is going to be coming in. We do not want to be further indebted, so it's vital that funding that is coming for climate change adaptation needs to be equitable to developing countries.
All right. Most countries, especially developing countries, do not seem to be too satisfied with the new document. Talking about increasing the finance. Why are you not seeing like the issue of reducing the emissions first before now talking about funding?
Well, look, the reality is that developing countries, well, if I take Africa for instance, probably contributes less than 5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So if we're contributing that minute amount, really our focus is not necessarily on emissions reduction. Our focus is on adaptation. We are the hardest hit when it comes to climate change. So our focus really is to make sure that our countries are not decimated, our economies are protected from the impacts of climate change. When you also consider that the lack of fiscal buffers, the poor infrastructure, really does not bode well for us in terms of being able to adequately adapt. So if we are talking about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, I don't think that is the focus for Africa and developing nations. It is really the onus on the developed economies to be able to reduce those greenhouse gases. And also, we are looking at, from a development perspective, Africa also needs to develop, and development is going to require energy. So if we're looking to develop, really we have the opportunity to develop in a green manner, and that will also require funding. So when we are talking about emissions reductions, we also position it against African development agenda. We need to develop, but we need to develop in a green manner, and we do need funding for that, so that in the long run we are not adding to the current emissions that is happening globally.
All right, developing in a green manner, you just said. One of the fallouts of COP29 is supposed to address the need to reduce carbon emission and keep fossil fuels in check. Has this been met?
Well, I think some of the wins we could take from this COP are two things: the operationalization of the loss and damage fund, and also the Article 6 framework for carbon markets. Those are probably two wins that we could say will certainly be beneficial to African countries and developed nations. On the loss and damage, that provides funding for the hardest hit nations for climate and to meet the needs of those developing countries. The carbon market actually provides a fantastic opportunity for developing nations to be able to generate carbon credits and to be able to initiate carbon projects that will also yield funding for these nations. I think developed nations, especially in Africa, have fantastic opportunities to be able to generate those carbon credits. And with the Article 6 framework, there are opportunities whereby countries are able to have bilateral agreements to be able to offset the emissions from higher emitting nations. But with that also comes a cost. So we have that opportunity to be able to state that price. That carbon is valuable, and we need to create those frameworks and set those policies, institutional frameworks in place to be able to price our carbon at a more equitable price.
Just before I let you go, what is the next step for Nigeria going forward?
Fantastic. I think we need to start looking, really seriously into this particular sector. Climate change is global. We need to, create our institutional frameworks. We have signed up to the Paris Agreement. There is also the NDC, that's the Nationally Determined Contributions 3.0, that will be submitted in 2025. Now, this provides us an opportunity to be able to, really create actionable, bankable project plans that will help us in meeting our nationally determined contributions, and also attract much needed climate financing. I think what we've had in the past have not necessarily been, really, focused. We've had frameworks without really having those, real bankable projects that will lead us to meeting our climate goals. And I think this is the opportunity for us to really do that.
All right, many thanks, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Climate Change and Stakeholders Engagement, Ibrahim Abdullah Shalek, for your thoughts on, the aftermath of COP29 on NTA International News.
Thank you.
Well, you're watching the news at NTA International. It's time to take a short break. More news when we return. Please stay with us.
Imagine a world where your potential isn't limited by your bank account, where your financial dreams can become reality. That world is here with the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation scheme, Credico. Credico is one of President Tinubu's initiatives designed to put the power of consumer credit in the hands of working Nigerians. Here to help you achieve your goals, whether it's providing for your family or expanding your home or business. Visit www.credico.ng today for details. This is the renewed hope.
Thanks for being there. In view of the evolving nature of security challenges globally, the Nigerian Army says it is ensuring that all operational, administrative and logistics requirements are addressed through needs assessments and efficient use of funds to meet global standards. In his message to the participants at the 2024 Directorate of Procurement's fourth quarter seminar, the Acting Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, called for a collaborative effort to tackle the threats facing the nation.
I wish to reiterate that the enormous security challenges facing our country demand a call to all Nigerians to forge a formidable team spirit to tackle the security issues. The Nigerian Army is intensifying its collaborative efforts with the services and other security agencies to decisively address these threats.
The Nigerian Army procurement system focused on the acquisition of new capabilities and platforms, provision of operational and logistics items, construction of accommodations and infrastructures, as well as the maintenance of existing structures and equipment.
The theme of the seminar is adapting to Nigeria's economic fluctuations in defense procurement options for the Nigerian Army. And operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NTA, have arrested a 50-year-old businessman at the Akano-Biam International Airport, Enugu, for ingesting 90 wraps of cocaine. Salwa Khalil Ibrahim, who reports on NDLA activities during the week, says that a Chinese national and a Nigerian drug kingpin were nabbed in Lagos.
This 1, 2, 3, 4.
The 50-year-old businessman was intercepted by men of the NDLEA on Wednesday, 20th November 2024, on arrival from Ethiopia at Enugu Airport, following months of intelligence and surveillance on him. He was subsequently placed on excretion observation, during which he ingested 90 pellets of cocaine weighing 2.019 kilograms in 7 excretions. In another well-coordinated operation carried out by a special operations unit of the agency on Thursday, 21st November, head of a cocaine distribution cartel was arrested along with 5 of his associates in Lagos. A total of 2.412 kilograms of cocaine were recovered from them. In a related development, another drug syndicate operated by a Chinese man has been dismantled by NDLEA operatives following his arrest at his hotel in Lagos. He is said to be the brain behind a trans-border drug trafficking syndicate. In Ekiti State, NDLEA operatives on Sunday, 17th November, arrested a 50-year-old physically challenged woman with 286 grams of Colorado and loud. Raids and arrests were also carried out in Edo, Kano and Bauchi states. In Abuja, Salwa Khalil Ibrahim, NTA News.
A former President Olusegun Obasanjo is advocating the need for stakeholders to take action against substance abuse, especially among youth, to stem the tide of rising cases of juvenile delinquencies and crimes in the society. The former president was speaking at a special advocacy campaign against drug abuse tagged Fly Above the High held in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Hakim Jimo reports.
Fly Above the High is a supportive movement against drug abuse. While recounting his story as a former drug addict, the Vice President, Recovery Advocacy Network, Abubakar Salami, believes that rehabilitation of drug addicts is possible at any point of their lives.
I believe with love and mentorship, you can bring people out of this dark place. You know, information is power. There are people that are lost in this place, but they don't know there is a way out.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo advocates the need for stakeholders to take action against substance abuse now to prevent recurring cases of crimes and criminalities in the society.
Either you are tempted by whatever peer, friend, loved one, whoever they are, don't hide if you seek help. If you make effort, you can get out of it.
Participants suggest strict legislation against substance abuse as a way out of the menace.
These substances are not supposed to be available. The availability is much in our environment. So that primordial level is very important, where government legislates, strict legislation, and then of course making sure that those legislations are implemented.
If that awareness is created from the school level, family level, and there's a political will and support for that awareness, then we'll be able to cut the use.
There are some parts in the brain that does not need your consent to function. So when you take drug, it makes your brain work abnormally.
One can overcome the addiction through God and through seeking counseling.
The Enlightenment program metamorphosed into a panel discussion where the panelists encouraged Nigerians to shun abuse in its entirety. In Abeokuta, Hakim Jimo, NTA News.
Ministries and parastatals have been called upon to sensitize Nigerians and government policies and programs. The call was made by the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Works, Dr. Yakubu Adam Kofa Mata. The Permanent Secretary made the call during an exclusive interview with NTA Hausa Channel. He says the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is executing several projects aimed at addressing the socio-economic problems of Nigerians, and the public need to know these programs and actions taken by the federal government. He says this administration has pledged to complete all road projects inherited from previous administration, and says new road projects have been awarded to cover the entire country. Dr. Yakubu says an immediate action has been taken on Abuja-Kaduna Road to address its current deplorable condition before the new contractors rewarded the project starts final work on the road. And after sports, Kenyan's Edwin Congo won gold in the male 75 kg bout in boxing at the ongoing Africa Military Games Abuja 2024, as Nigeria continues their dominance in other sports. For details and more, let's join Suleiman Musa on Sport Update.
We begin with AMGA 2024. In boxing, luck has continued to run out of Nigeria as the host country in the ongoing Africa Military Games, as their opponent keep outshining the giant of Africa. Those ugly experiences include their encounter with Kenya in 70 kg bout, Algeria in 80 kg bout, as well as Ghana in 92 kg bout. However, it was a contrary story in male super heavyweight plus 92 kg fight in the second semi-finals of the boxing event, which was in favor of Nigeria. Also in taekwondo, Nigeria suffered another loss in their 80 kg male.
I was sleeping. I think he woke me up, but all the rest, it wasn't hard. It was very easy. I was seeing everything. It was clear. And I thank God for the win.
Elsewhere, handicap 15 player, retired Major General Victor Ezegu has emerged as the overall champion of the 2024 Golf for Peace tournament, which concluded on Saturday at the TYB Golf Course in Abuja. Ezegu scored a gross of 78 with a net score of 63, surpassing over 118 other golfers to take the title.
I've been playing golf in the last 30 years of my life, but this is the high point of my golf career because the first time I'm winning a major tournament, and it's called Golf for Peace.
We are preaching peace to bring peace back to the nation amongst ourselves.
For what golf stands for is what we also project, that peace. Wherever there is peace, there will be progress, there will be development, and that's what we are looking at.
Organizers say the tournament has successfully promoted its message of peace and unity. With sport update, Suleiman Musa, NTA News.
And now a look at the weather situation for Monday in Nigeria and some other parts of the world. And that's it on the news on NTA International. Many thanks for being a part of it. I am Olajide Bello.